sometimes I wonder what really belongs to me and what has actually kind of what I've been conditioned to believe. You know, like what's the difference between a real authentic sort of I have this experience and it's meaningful to me, or do I believe this because I was raised on television? You know, like where does it begin and where does it end? And that's what I think the movie kind of addresses as well. Because the character is, at some point, Ryan's character is sort of thinking that he has implants, but then the horse makes him think that he is actually real. You know, like those were his real memories, and then he kind of puts it together at the end that, you know, it's not him, and he puts father and daughter together. That to me is a very interesting element to the film. Another interesting element, in my opinion, to the film is, well, control, like our modern culture and control, and where control really comes from and how we are controlled. And a lot of references in the film are also about being a slave. Mm-hmm. I think many of us can comprehend that we actually are slaves already, but it's like, where do we really draw that line for ourselves? Where do we assert our freedom?
Class structure and everything.
Yeah, our alleged freedom, you know, and so that I think is also part of the film. And then another element I find interesting in the film is that it does have a projection into the future. And in my opinion, it's not an incredibly positive, you know, look in that future. I mean, it's pretty bleak, but that's sort of the sort of heart of the movie is what's real and what's not real. You know, what's an implant? What's a fake? What's a not real thing?
And what creates a soul?
Yeah.
It seems that that's what, when Kay has autonomy, is the moment he thinks he might have a soul, and
right.
And he still seems to possess that, and that love also has some degree of autonomy, and is able to lie because she knows that replicants can reproduce. She has this sort of knowledge that breaks her free of that. But I guess everyone's got a different interpretation of it.
Well, that's what makes a film good, I guess, is that you can have a lot of different interpretations.
When you were on set in Budapest, I mean, were you able to read the whole script?
No.
Interesting. So you're just kind of dropped in and
it was kind of silly. I mean, my suspicion is that they basically included me because it would be really dumb not to. You know?
Agreed.
Yeah, it would be like, what would they think? I mean, how would they justify that? So I was given a very marginal, you know, way to participate in it, but they did pay me, so that was nice. And they did, you know,
always helpful.
They did fly me to Budapest, and I was able to sort of, you know, see what was going on. And also what I thought was really fabulous was I asked the head of Alcon Entertainment if they would give my younger son a job, and they said yes. And then the UPN called me up and said, well, where do you see him, you know, on the production? And I said, oh, I mean, I get to choose? Like, great, well then put him in the camera department. They get all the respect, you know. And I said, but ask Quinn. And the UPM did, and Quinn said that he wanted to work in the visual effects department. So he was there all throughout principal photography, and they also hired him for the whole post-production part. And it was almost like a 4-year college education, because the guys who were in charge of the special effects was Joe Waymeyer, who did Inception, and he's now doing Westworld, and John Nelson, whose credits are quite amazing as well. So it was they worked hard to not make an enemy of me, in a way, you know. And not that I ever had an intention of being an enemy, but they obviously didn't want any trouble, and might have overestimated my abilities to be trouble anyway. But
well, it sounds like you built some good contacts, though.
Yeah.
So those are probably pretty good guys to know if you're talking about camera people and visual effects people.
Yeah. Roger, the scene with Jared Leto, with the pyramid and all of the reflections on the wall, those aren't special effects, that's lighting. And that was one of the most sophisticated lighting rigs I had ever seen, probably ever, because they had these rotating set of lights at the top, and then they had lights that were reflecting, and getting all of that reflection on the walls there was just like, I just remember saying to Roger, "You good?" You know, it was amazing. Some of the lighting in that film was just kind of like off the charts.
When you were on set, I imagine you hopefully got to see the scene prior to you done, the conversation between Jared and Harrison, and that, you know, that what Jared's character, what Neander's theory that he posits, you know, is that, hey, hypothetically, what if Deckard is a replicant built to mate with Rachel? Had that notion ever pop into your head?
Well, as far as the culture of the first Blade Runner, I know that everybody who's into that movie knew that Ridley thought of Deckard's character as a replicant, which basically got nixed in the original release by the producers because they felt that the movie's lead guy had to be human.
Well, and Ridley was basically the only one who had that sort of perspective.
I guess in essence that's true. I mean, it's hard to say with Ridley, but you know, he's a creatively very complicated person. So he might have had his people that he was talking to that he wanted to sort of push it in that direction. And film is a community. You know, you get on a film, I mean, there were a lot of people that worked on this film. As you can see, and Quinn, my son's name, is up on this too, so I was really happy about that. But the film is a community of people who work together, and they, you know, they try to put the best thing together. And there was a lot of, well, as Denise said, there's people he said you have to be careful with doing the remake of Blade Runner because there's a lot of people who are going to walk in the theater with a baseball bat. That was one of the things he said, and I can see why he feels that way.
And he said if he hadn't been the director, he would have been one of those guys as well.
Right.
Rightfully so. So when you're there, you're on set, you're watching a body double basically play you. I mean, you did the voice?
I did the voice, and then they had the special effects department or the visual effects department take, you know, get your whole face and anything they want your face to do. And plus, they put you on a thing and turn you around. So basically, they can make a movie of Rachel in the future without me ever even being there.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's an interesting question because I think all actors are kind of somewhat concerned with our extinction, you know, like that you don't really need actors at a certain point because you have the ability to recreate them. I mean, I don't know if that's a true concern of mine, but it's sort of that thing I was thinking about, which this whole film kind of means, which is the difference between a real memory and, you know, something that's fake. And our life, I don't know if anybody here saw Ex Machina. Did anyone see that film? And that was an amazing film as well. I mean, that film, I watched that film a couple times, and the whole concept of artificial intelligence. I remember thinking about that topic when we did the original Blade Runner, because what's the difference between a clone and the original? You know, that sounds like